Hello Future MD! Nasa part 2 ka na ng Physics NMAT Review natin. In this video, we're going to answer numbers 31 to 60 of the Physics NMAT questionnaire. Before you watch this video, make sure that you answer the physics questionnaire that we prepared for you. The link is on the description below. If this video has helped you, kindly share it with your friends who also need NMAT review materials. Also, subscribe to this channel if you like. Yun lang, let's review.
For numbers 31 and 32, refer to the following scenario. K runs 3 kilometers east, then turns north to cover another 4 kilometers. 31, what is K's displacement? So pag sinabing displacement, it is the direct length between any 2 points when measured along the minimum path between them. So ibig sabihin yung displacement is the shortest length between 2 points. So for example, kung ito yung reference point natin and dito sa gitna yung starting point, tumakbo daw si K 3 kilometers to the east. And then, after that, tumakbo naman siya 4 kilometers north. So yung displacement is the length of the path between the starting point and the ending point, which is itong violet arrow. So to get the displacement, so para makuha tong hypotenuse ng right triangle, gagamitan natin siya ng Pythagorean theorem. So, remember the Pythagorean theorem, ito yung formula niya. So, hypotenuse, which is itong side na to, is equal to square root of a squared plus b squared. Yung legs ng right triangle. Yan. So, i-apply lang natin sila dito. So, square root of 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to 5. So the correct answer here is letter C, 5 kilometers. Number 32, what is the distance covered by K? So pag sinabing distance, it is the total movement of an object without any regard to direction. So yung measure dito is yung total length na travel ni K. So if we have a starting point, so 3 kilometers east, then 4 kilometers north, ibig sabihin, yung total distance na na-travel niya is 3 plus 4 is equal to 7 kilometers, which is letter A. Number 33, what happens to the centripetal acceleration as the radius increases while maintaining velocity? So, i-define muna natin yung centripetal acceleration. Yung centripetal acceleration, it is the acceleration experienced while in uniform circular motion. So as you can see here, meron tayong mass na umiikot sa, in circular motion. Tapos sabi yung centripetal acceleration daw always points towards the center of rotation. So yung centripetal force, yung formula niyan is mass times acceleration, itong object. So yung acceleration, lagi siyang towards the center. Ayan. Tapos sabi, yung acceleration daw is inversely proportional to the radius. Ibig sabihin, pag mas lumalaki yung radius na iniikutan ng object, mas lumiliit yung acceleration or centripetal acceleration. And as you can see here, yung formula for the centripetal acceleration is equal to the velocity squared. So itong velocity dito over the radius. So kapag itong velocity squared dinivide mo sa mas malaking radius, ibig sabihin, mas liliit tong acceleration. So the correct answer here is letter D, decreases. Lumiliit yung centripetal acceleration.
For numbers 34 and 35, refer to the following scenario. A 5 kilogram stone is dropped from a height of 20 meters. Number 34, determine its maximum kinetic energy. So, mag-drawing lang muna tayo para mas maintindihan natin. So, kunyari yung cliff, 20 meters. Tapos may person na nag-drop ng stone. Siyempre, babagsak yung stone. Ayan. So, pinapakuha yung maximum kinetic energy. So, kinetic energy is equal to 1/2 times the mass times velocity squared. So, yung mass is already given, which is 5 kilograms. And hindi naman siya magbabago-bago, di ba? So, constant lang siya. Yung mag-change dyan is yung velocity. So, kailan ba highest yung velocity? At what point? So, highest yung velocity ng stone at the point wherein paland pa lang siya dun sa ground or just before it hits the ground. Yan, hinahanap ko yung tamang term, sorry. Ayan. So, dyan pinaka mataas yung velocity, which is yung final velocity, di ba? Ito kasi yung initial initial velocity. So, since this one is a free fall situation, basta free fall problem, gagamitan natin to ng kinematic equations. So, be familiar with this set of equations. Yung gagamitin natin para makuha yung final velocity squared is yung naka-box. So, final velocity squared is equal to initial velocity plus 2 times acceleration due to gravity times the height. Ayan. So, yan yung formula. So, yung initial velocity, wala namang binanggit, diba? So, i-assume natin siya na nag-start siya at rest. So, 0. Yung velocity niya sa umpisa, plus 2 times yung gravity, usually 9.8 yung value niya, pero in this problem, we're going to make it 10. I-approximate na natin para hindi mahirap i-compute. Kasi pag sa NMAT, walang calculator na allowed So, yung height naman is 20. Yan. So, makukuha natin yung final velocity squared. So, 2 times 10 times 20 is 400 meter per second. Tapos, since nakuha na natin yan, pwede na natin siyang i-substitute sa formula ng kinetic energy. So, 1/2 times 5, which is yung mass, times 400. So, yung makukuha nating sagot dito is, so, 200, ito magiging 200 times 5. So, equal yan sa 1,000 joules, which is letter B. Number 35, determine its terminal velocity. Ayan, yung terminal velocity, it is the highest velocity that can be achieved by an object that is falling through a fluid such as air or water. So, yung keyword dyan is highest velocity. Noong una, hindi ko rin alam yan kung ano yung terminal velocity. Ayan, so, nabanggit ko na rin ata to kanina. Highest yung velocity at the point wherein the stone is just before the impact or bago siya tumama sa ground. Yun. So, meron tayong formula dito. Nakalagay, di ba? V is equal to square root of 2 times G times H or yung height. Na-derive yan from the equations earlier. So, dito rin. Ayan. So, paano siya nakuha? Diba, meron tayong final velocity squared is equal to the initial velocity squared plus 2 times gravity times height. Yan. So, since yung initial velocity is 0, yung final velocity natin is equal to the square root of 2 times gravity times height, which is also equal to 2 times 10 times 20 based on the given. Tapos, ito, 2 times 10 times 20 is 400. So, square root of 400 is equal to 20 meter per second. So, ito yung final answer natin. Yan yung highest velocity, which is letter A.
Number 36, what can be said about static friction and kinetic friction? Sabi dito, in static friction, the frictional force resists force that is applied to an object. And the object remains at rest until the force of static friction is overcome. So yung example dito sa picture, meron tayong object at rest or hindi pa gumagalaw. And then yung person nag-e-exert siya ng force. And then yung static friction, which is represented by this yellow arrow, is the friction force that resists the motion or the force na binibigay nitong person. And then kapag kinetic friction naman, the frictional force resists the motion of a moving object. So dito, as you can see, nag-accelerate na yung object or gumagalaw na yung object. Tapos itong kinetic friction, ino-oppose niya yung movement or force na binibigay ng person. Kaya siya tinawag na kinetic. Kinetic kasi ibig sabihin nun is moving. And then static at rest. So yung correct answer dito is letter B. So, sa same scenario daw, static friction is greater than kinetic friction because there are more forces at work keeping an object stationary than there are forces working to resist an object once it is in motion. So, ibig sabihin lang nito, kapag yung object is at rest, mas maraming forces na kailangan i-overcome kapag yung object is stationary compared sa object na gumagalaw na or accelerating na. Number 37, according to the law of conservation of momentum, the total momentum of a system is conserved. What happens when two bodies of equal masses and equal speeds collide? So our answer for this one is letter A. They bounce back with the same speed and distance. So first, ano ba muna yung momentum? It can be defined as mass in motion. So pag may gumagalaw na object, yan, ibig sabihin may momentum yun. So momentum is equal to mass times the velocity. And according to the law of conservation of momentum, for two or more bodies in an isolated system acting upon each other, their total momentum remains constant unless an external force is applied. So kaya dito, nag-bounce back lang ulit yung two bodies kasi wala namang external force na in-apply. Therefore, momentum can neither be created nor destroyed. And as you can see here, itong equation na to, this m1u1 plus m2u2, it represents the total momentum of particles A and B before the collision. So, m is the mass and u is the velocity before the collision. Tapos, ito namang m1v1 plus m2v2 is the total momentum of particles A and B after the collision. So, yung v1, v2, yan yung velocity after the collision. Yan, equal lang, di ba? Equal lang yung speed and yung distance na matatravel. So, yung ganitong klaseng collision, tinatawag siyang elastic collision. It is a collision in which there is no net loss in kinetic energy in the system as a result of the collision. So, pag sinabing no net loss, conserved yung total momentum. Number 38, pressure waves of frequencies below the frequencies of audible frequencies are blank. So, yung answer dito is letter D, infrasonic. So, kapag sinabing audible frequency, yun yung 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz na range. Yan yung kayang pakinggan ng human na frequency. So, kapag mas mababa na sa 20 Hz, tinatawag yun na infrasonic waves. Sound waves that are lower in frequency than what humans can hear. Then, pag ultrasonic naman, yung sa letter C, are acoustic waves that are so high in frequency that humans can't hear them. So, ito greater than 20,000 kilohertz naman, yung ultrasonic. And then, pag supersonic, hindi na siya about frequency, about na to sa speed ng object, wherein yung reference is yung speed ng sound. So, pag sinabi nating supersonic, yung speed ng object exceeds the speed of the sound. Number 39, which of the following is not true about parallel circuits? So, the correct answer here is letter C. Ayan, itong formula na to is for series circuits. So, ano bang pinagkaiba? Yan, pag sinabing series circuits, it is made by connecting the end of one device to the beginning of another. So, kagaya nito. And then, pag parallel circuit naman, the same terminals of both devices are connected together. So, yung positive terminal ng isang device and positive terminal ng isang device are connected. Then, ganun din yung sa negative terminal. And as you can see in this diagram, ganito yung itsura ng series and parallel circuit. For the series muna, yung voltage is equal to the summation of ayan, yung voltage 1, 2, and 3. So, merong voltage dyan sa terminals. And then, yung current is equal to, ayan, equal lahat yung current sa R1, R2, and R3. Yung equivalent resistance is equal to the summation of the resistances. So, R1 plus R2 plus R3. And then, for parallel circuit naman, yung voltage is the same for all the terminals. So, yung R1, R2, and R3, yan, meron silang pare-parehong voltage. And then yung total current is equal to the summation of the current na nagpa-pass through sa R1, R2, and R3. And then yung equivalent resistance is the reciprocal of the summation of the reciprocal of the resistances. Yan, medyo magulo. No? And pero yun, kukunin nyo muna yung reciprocal ng resistances and then i-add mo sila. Tapos, kukunin mo ulit yung
reciprocal nung sum. So, yun yung equivalent resistance ng parallel circuit. So, yung feature daw, if one component burns, current becomes inactive. If one component burns, current stops only through that branch and the rest part works fine. So, yun yung pinagkaiba nila.
Number 40, a microphone converts blank energy to blank energy. So the correct answer here is letter A, from sound energy to electrical energy. So paano ba nag-work yung microphone? Yung microphone, gumagamit yan ng tinatawag nating electromagnetic induction. So first, the sound waves will hit the diaphragm. Itong diaphragm na to, makikita siya dun sa loob ng microphone. And because of that, the diaphragm will vibrate, which makes the attached coil move as well. So, because of the vibration, magmo-move din yung attached coil. And then, itong magnet na to will create magnetic field around the coil. And due to that, an electrical current will be created. Para makita niyo yung animation kung paano nag-work yung microphone, you can watch this video. So, maganda yung animation niya. Ilalagay ko na lang sa description. Number 41, a body is in motion with constant acceleration. What would be the plot of its position versus time? So the correct answer here is letter A, parabolic curve. So ganito yung itsura ng position versus time graph. So kapag constant yung slope, constant din yung velocity niya or walang change in acceleration or walang change in velocity pala, sorry. So kapag nag-accelerate naman yung object or merong change in velocity which is positive, mas bumibilis yung object, ganito yung itsura niya. Parabolic curve. Kapag naman mas bumabagal yung object or negative velocity, pag ganito yung curve niya pababa. Ibig sabihin, as the time pass by, mas umiikli yung natatravel niya distance. Ayan, so ulitin ko lang ulit, if the velocity is constant, then the slope is constant like this one, so straight line lang. And velocity is changing, then the slope is also changing, curved line. And kapag velocity is positive, then the slope is positive, moving upwards to the right, like this one, moving upwards. Number 42, which of the following represents a joule? So the correct answer here is letter A, kilogram meter squared per second squared. So yung joule, siya yung unit of work or energy. So kung maaalala nyo, yung work is equal to force times distance, di ba? And then yung unit ng force is equal to Newton, then yung distance is meters. Ayan. So yung Newton equal yan sa kilogram meter per second squared. Kasi di ba yung formula for force is equal to mass times the acceleration due to gravity. Kaya meron tayong meter per second squared. So yung force na to, itong unit ng force na Newton, i-multiply pa natin siya sa unit ng distance, which is meter. So kaya merong meter squared dito. Ayan, kilogram meter squared per second squared. Number 43. When a net force acts on an object, the object will accelerate directly proportional to the net force and inversely proportional to mass. This is the statement of which Newton's law of motion. So the correct answer here is letter B, second law yan ni Newton. Yung formula ng force is equal to mass times acceleration. And then as the force acting upon an object is increased, the acceleration of the object is also increased. So directly proportional yung force sa mass and directly proportional din yung force sa acceleration. Pero as the mass of an object is increased, the acceleration of the object is decreased. So assuming na dito sa illustration na to, yung force na binibigay ng lalaking to is equal. So, kunyari, force dito is equal dito sa force sa 40 kilogram mass. Ibig sabihin yan, since yung mass nito is greater, mas liliit yung acceleration niya o mas babagal siya. And for this one, since lesser yung mass niya, yung acceleration niya will be greater or mas mabilis itong mag-move given that the force exerted is equal. Number 44, motion with vertical and horizontal component.
So, yung type ng motion na yon is letter D, projectile. So, ito yung iba't ibang types ng projectiles. So, ito free fall siya. Special case siya ng projectile motion wherein zero yung initial velocity. Yan. And then, meron din tayong projectile wherein meron trajectory. Pag sinabing projectile, it is any object upon which the only force is gravity. So, yung nag-a-act lang dito is gravity. Projectiles travel with a parabolic trajectory due to the influence of gravity. And then there are no horizontal forces acting upon projectiles and thus no horizontal acceleration. So for example, as you can see here, since walang force naman na nag-a-act sa horizontal component, yung velocity is constant. Pag constant yung velocity at the x component, ibig sabihin, walang horizontal acceleration or hindi bumubilis yung bola horizontally. Ayan, sabi dito, the horizontal velocity of a projectile is constant or a never-changing in value. And then there is a vertical acceleration caused by gravity. Its value is 9.8 meter per second squared. As you can see in this illustration here, dito sa peak ng trajectory, walang velocity at y component kasi pabagsak na yung bola. So as you can see here, yung velocity at y component, nagbabago siya or nag-i-increase siya ng 9.8. Ibig sabihin, nag-a-accelerate siya ng 9.8 meter per second squared. And then yung negative sign, ibig sabihin nun, downward yung motion or tinutukoy nun yung direction ng object, pababa. And the vertical velocity of a projectile changes by 9.8 meter per second each second. The horizontal motion of a projectile is independent of its vertical motion. So, yan. So, kapag nagko-compute tayo, di ba, nagagamit natin yung vertical component and horizontal component of motion. Pwede silang gamitin separately. Number 45, massive objects experience blank gravitational force. The correct answer here is letter B, strong gravitational force. So, as you can see in this photo, yan, ito yung formula for the gravitational force. Gravitational constant times the masses M1, M2. And yung R, yan yung distance between the centers of the masses. Ayan. So, since the gravitational force is directly proportional to the mass of both interacting objects, more massive objects will attract each other with a greater gravitational force. So as the mass of either object increases, the force of gravitational attraction between them also increases. So halata naman sa formula, di ba? Since nasa numerator yung masses, bale pag mas mataas yung mass, mas lalaki rin yung gravitational force. Number 46, which of the following is a set of vector quantities? So the correct answer here is letter C, displacement, force, and momentum. Pag sinabing vector quantities, those are quantities that have magnitude and direction. So yung examples nun are displacement, velocity, acceleration, force, weight, and momentum. Pag scalar naman, magnitude lang yung tinutukoy ng quantity or yung numerical value lang, walang direction. So for example, distance, speed, time, power, and energy. Number 47, which of the following statements is not true? The correct answer here is letter D. Your weight on Earth is the same as your weight on Moon. Sabi dito, the Moon's gravitational force is only about 16.6% of Earth's gravity, which means a person would weigh 6 times less on the Moon than they do on Earth. So, ibig sabihin yan, kapag nasa Moon ka, mas mababa yung weight mo or yung timbang mo compared kapag nasa Earth ka due to the difference in gravitational force. Kasi di ba yung weight is equal to mass times gravity. So kung mag-change yung gravity, yung value ng gravity, ibig sabihin, mag-change din yung weight mo. depending on the location. Yan, dito sa letter A, parang medyo maliitin tong statement na to. Yan, dapat sinabi na yung stone at saka yung cotton ay nasa earth. Kasi given tayo ng mass na 1 kilogram, di ba? Yan. So, yung mass kasi, hindi siya ginagamit to refer to the weight of the object. Yan yung physical quantity ng matter na meron yung object. Hindi siya yung timbang. Ayan. So, dapat in-state dito na both the stone and cotton are on earth para maging true siya. Letter B naman, objects will fall towards earth at the same time in vacuum. So, kung walang air resistance, pareho lang yung time it will take for the object to fall. Kasi same lang naman yung gravity sa earth as long as nasa earth ka. Ayan. And then letter C, an object's mass is constant anywhere. Ayan. So, kahit magpunta ka sa moon, earth, o Jupiter, kung saang planeta man, yung mass mo will be constant.
Number 48, what is the effect of doubling the distance between two objects to the gravitational force between them? So if we have two masses, ayan, merong nag-a-act na gravitational force between them. And yung formula ng gravitational force is equal to the gravitational constant, merong value tong G, times the masses, M1 times M2, all over the distance between the centers of the masses, ito yung R, squared. Yan. So, kapag dinoble daw natin yung distance between the masses, yan, ano daw yung mangyayari dun sa equation? So, ayan, i-substitute natin yung 2 times the original distance dito sa baba. Yan, makukuha natin kapag ni-raise tong 2, so 2 raised to 2, and then times r raised to 2, bale, magkakaroon tayo ng 4 dito sa denominator. So, as you can see here, na-divide or mas lumiit yung gravitational force. So, the correct answer here is letter C, reduced 4 times. Number 49, at the peak, a projectile will have blank. The correct answer here is letter B, no vertical velocity. As you can see here in this diagram, vertical velocity is represented by the green arrow, and then yung horizontal velocity, yun yung red arrows. Yan. So, as the projectile moves upwards, it goes against the gravity. As you can see here, mas lumiliit yung velocity as it goes upward. And to the point na magiging zero na yung vertical velocity sa maximum height. And then, due to the gravity, mag-a-accelerate downwards yung projectile. And as you can see here, yung horizontal velocity is constant lang all throughout the projectile. Yan. So, nandito yung mga necessary equations. Ito yung formula for finding the maximum height of the projectile. Yan. And other formula. Number 50, which of the following is not true about friction? So, isa-isahin natin yung choices, kung tama or mali yung sinasabi niya. Letter A, it is a force. So, this one is correct kasi friction is a force. Letter B, non-moving objects in contact experience friction. So, this is also correct. So, yung nag-a-apply na friction dito is static friction kapag non-moving objects. Letter C, actually, this one is the answer for number 50. This is not true about friction. It acts in the same direction of motion. Yung friction, lagi siyang nag-a-act opposite sa direction ng motion. Letter D, static friction is usually stronger than kinetic friction. This is also true. Yung explanation is nasa previous number. Number 51, which electromagnetic wave has the shortest wavelength? The correct answer here is letter D, gamma. As you can see here in this figure, ito yung electromagnetic spectrum. As you can see here, yung merong shortest wavelength is yung gamma rays, the next X-ray, ultraviolet, visible, infrared, microwave, and radio waves. So, yung radio waves, yan yung may pinaka mahabang wavelength. And as you can see here, kung sino yung merong shortest wavelength,
siya yung may pinakamataas na frequency. Yan. So, additional information lang din, yung formula natin for wavelength is equal to the velocity over the frequency. So, ano ba yung frequency? Frequency is the number of waves that pass a fixed point in unit time. And then, the wave with the greatest frequency has the shortest wavelength. So, indirectly proportional sila with each other. Kapag tinaasan ko yung frequency, measured in hertz, so pag nilakihan ko to, liliit yung wavelength. And then kapag nilakihan ko naman yung velocity, hahaba yung wavelength. So, ganun lang siya.
Number 52, when an object is placed in a higher position, what increases? So the correct answer here is letter A, potential energy. So as you can see here in this diagram, yan, kapag yung ball is at rest, the potential energy is at maximum. And then, yung potential energy transforms into kinetic energy as the ball falls downward or as the ball moves downward. And habang mas bumababa yung ball, mas lumiliit yung potential energy niya. As you can see here, yung value ng potential energy is equal to the mass times acceleration due to gravity times the height. So kapag mas mataas yung height or yung position ng ball, mas mataas din yung potential energy. And for the formula of kinetic energy, it is equal to 1/2 times mass times the velocity squared. Number 53, the tendency of an object to resist changes in motion is dependent on blank. So the correct answer here is letter D, mass. So according to the Newton's first law o yung tinatawag nating law of inertia, every object will remain at rest or in uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled to change its state by the action of an external force. So yung pinaka-explanation din dito, yan, yung tendency ng object to resist changes in its state of motion varies with mass. Mass is that quantity that is solely dependent upon the inertia of an object. So kapag mas mataas yung inertia ng object, ibig sabihin nun, mas mataas din yung value ng mass na meron yung isang object. Number 54, which is not a scalar quantity? The correct answer here is letter D, velocity. Yung velocity kasi is vector quantity, not scalar. Pag sinabing vector quantity, those quantities have magnitude and direction at the same time. So example nun yung displacement, velocity, acceleration, force, weight, and momentum. Pag sinabing scalar, magnitude lang yung meron or yung numerical value lang yung meron. So for example, distance, speed, time, power, and energy. Number 55, on a distance versus time graph, a horizontal straight line graph corresponds to a motion with blank. So the correct answer here is letter A, zero speed. As you can see here in this distance time graph, ito yung horizontal straight line graph. So nakalagay dito na stationary or hindi gumagalaw yung object kapag nasa horizontal straight line graph. And as you can observe, tumatakbo yung oras or nag-i-increase yung time, pero yung distance, it stays the same or hindi siya nag-i-increase. So, ibig sabihin, nasa isang position lang yung object. So, wala rin siyang speed. So, kaya zero speed yung sagot natin. And yung other graphs naman, kapag ganito yung graphs, so, diagonal, kapag naka-diagonal yung graph, as you can see here, ito, steady speed or velocity yan. And kapag ito naman, as you can see here, yung pa-curve na ganito, ibig sabihin nag-a-accelerate yung object. It gets faster. So, yun lang.
Number 56, what is the velocity of the freely falling object at the time where kinetic energy equates to potential energy? So, kinetic energy daw is equal to potential energy. Ano daw yung magiging resulting na velocity? So, this one is the formula for kinetic energy. And this one is the formula for potential energy. And then, i-derive lang natin yung equation for the velocity. And since both sides have mass. Ika-cancel na natin yung mass. And then, we're left with 1/2 v squared. So, v squared is equal to, yan, yung 2, imumultiply natin dun sa kabilang side. So, 2 times gravity times height. And then, para makuha natin yung velocity, is square root, kunin natin yung square root ng both sides. So, square root, and then v is equal to square root of 2 times acceleration due to gravity times height. So, this one is the formula for the velocity of the freely falling object, which is letter C. Number 57, a physicist wants to increase the force of attraction between two charged particles by 16 folds. Which of the following changes should he employ? So, the correct answer here is letter C, reduce the distance between particles by 4 times. So, ano nga ba muna yung force of attraction? Yung equation for that. So, the force of attraction is equal to the gravitational constant times the mass of the object 1 times the mass of the object 2 all over the distance between the centers of the masses, or yun yung R na tinatawag, R squared. Yan. So, kung meron kang mass 1 and then mass 2, yung R is yung the distance between the center of the masses. Yan. So, para daw ma-increase yung force of attraction, ano daw yung gagawin natin para ma-increase by 16 folds? So, as you can see here, dito sa denominator, kapag naglagay tayo ng denominator dun sa R, mapupunta yung denominator to the numerator. Papakita ko lang sa inyo. So, gravitational constant times mass 1 times mass 2. And then, ayan, yung R, dinivide natin siya by 4, then squared. As you can see here, yung magiging resulting answer natin is equal to mass 1 times mass 2 over R raised to 2 is R squared over 4 raised to 2 is equal to 16. And since yung 16, nasa denominator siya ng R, we can also write that as G times M1, M2 times 16 over R squared. Ganyan natin dinidivide, diba? Kinukuha natin yung reciprocal ng denominator, then minumultiply natin dun sa numerator. Yan. So, yung makukuha nating answer dito is 16G or gravitational constant times M1 times M2 over R squared. As you can see here, nag-increase yung force of attraction ng 16-fold. Pero, anong ginawa natin to increase the force of attraction? Nireduce natin yung distance between the center of masses by 4. Yan. So, the correct answer here is letter C.
Number 58, light bulbs in a series circuit will always have. The correct answer here is letter B, less brightness than parallel bulbs. Bakit? So, let's look at this diagram. So, as you can see here, yung voltage sa series connection, naghahati-hati yung kada. So, for example, bulb to. Ayan. So, kunyari, nandyan yung bulbs. So, maghahati-hati yung voltages ng bulbs dun sa voltage ng mismong supply. Unlike kapag dito sa parallel, as you can see here, yung voltage for each bulb is the same as the voltage in the circuit. So, kung ano yung voltage dito, yun din yung makukuha ng kada bulbs. So, bulbs in parallel are brighter than bulbs in series. Number 59, which of the following is true about light? The correct answer here is letter C, both A and B. So it behaves as an electromagnetic wave and at the same time, it behaves as a particle. So sabi dito, a famous 1800s physics experiment, yung tinatawag nating double-slit experiment, revealed that light behaves like both particles and waves. So, ganito yung itsura no double-slit experiment. If you want to know more in detail kung ano yun, just visit this link. I'll put this on the description below.
Meron tong mga animation and explanation about the double-slit experiment and kung ano yung result ng experiment. So, panoorin nyo na lang. Number 60, sound travels fastest in blank. The correct answer here is letter B, solid medium. Sound travels more quickly through solids than through liquids and gases because the molecules of a solid are closer together and therefore can transmit the vibrations or energy faster. So, as you can see here in this figure, ayan. So, mas kumpul-kumpul kasi yung molecules ng solid, kaya mas nakakapag-travel yung wave ng pinakamabilis. Next na pinakamabilis is yung sa liquid, then slowest dito sa gas. So, kapag walang medium, walang sound na makakapag-travel.